lowering their growth forecast and saying fiscal support is urgently needed.
As I live my life, I am increasingly surprised by my strength, my determination, by the power of my beliefs. I find reward in the honesty of my endeavors, proud of what I have achieved, and convinced there is much more I can do.
This is Singapore Tonight.
Good evening, I'm Dawn Tan. Tonight's top stories. An $800 million package unveiled for firms and individuals hardest hit by stricter COVID-19 measures. It includes wage support and new cash payouts. Stricter COVID-19 safe management measures are working for now. The number of new community cases has stabilized. More certainty and a lifeline. SMEs say rental support will help them keep their businesses going for much longer. Gyms and arts groups hard hit by heightened COVID-19 restrictions say the support will save jobs, but their future remains uncertain. Cleaning companies step up measures after a cleaners cluster emerges. At least 6 cleaners from the same company have tested positive for COVID-19.
I'm Steve Lai. Also tonight, Malaysia to go into total lockdown for 2 weeks from the 1st of June to curb a major surge in infections. And a state of emergency across parts of Japan, including Tokyo, extended as authorities scramble to control the coronavirus ahead of the Olympics.
I'm Eugenia Lim with your Asia Business Update. A sigh of relief for Singapore F&B outlets says COVID-19 measures will likely not be further tightened. Plus, a closer look at the needs and support for local businesses.
Singapore is set to spend another $800 million supporting companies and workers hit by tighter COVID-19 restrictions. The new rules have been in place since the middle of the month. Dining in at restaurants isn't allowed, and some businesses have been forced to shut until the 13th of June. Included are indoor gyms and fitness studios. Now, to help them, 50% wage support will be offered until the middle of next month. And that also applies to those in the performing arts and F&B sectors. Some businesses not required to close but still significantly affected will receive 30% wage support. Included in that list are shops, cinemas, beauty salons and spas. That support will be paid in September. At the same time, tenants can also qualify for rent relief. Those in government-owned properties will get a 1-month waiver, while those in privately owned properties will receive half a month. Help will also go to workers with wages that have been cut by at least half or forced to take no pay leave for at least a month. Those on lower to middle incomes or who are self-employed will receive a one-off payout of up to $700. And for graduates, study loan repayment and interest charges will be suspended until September. Unlike previous support packages, the government isn't drawing down on the country's reserves this time. Instead, it says that the funds will be reallocated from development expenditure, which is funded by borrowing.
Because most parts of the economy are still operating, businesses and individuals have learned to adapt. And we now also have more government support schemes like the Jobs Growth Incentive and the SG United Jobs and Skills Package, which are continuing to support new jobs and opportunities for Singaporeans. So our circumstances today are very different compared to last year. And under such a circumstance, I don't think we should be going to the President to seek permission to draw on our past reserves.
Mr. Wong also says there's no plans to further tighten COVID-19 restrictions since current measures seem to be working for now.
Mr. Wong said that the government is still monitoring the situation closely, but there are no plans for further tightening, as he says the preliminary assessment is that current measures are working. It's important to remember that the finance minister is also part of the country's COVID task force. He says we have not seen instances of cases doubling or growing exponentially. In fact, he says that the number of cases in recent days have stabilized or even declined slightly. He thanks Singaporeans for playing their part by sticking to the measures. But if you recall, he's not the first minister to say all this. Health Minister Ong Ye Kung had also previously said that the tightened measures have avoided a spike in new COVID-19 cases. Mr. Wong says more details on the local COVID-19 situation will be given on Monday during a multi-ministry task force press conference.
The preliminary assessment is that measures are working. We are not making any further tightening moves at this stage, but we cannot be complacent at the same time. All right? We still have to be vigilant, do everything we can for everyone in Singapore to do our part, scale back activities, minimize movement, be alert and vigilant whenever we go out, take all the necessary precautions, and I think if we all do that, we can continue to make progress in controlling the infection.
The minister says that this latest round of support is a so-called one-off exercise and not part of recurrent spending. But he did leave room for many what-ifs. In fact, he didn't rule out more support should measures be extended beyond the 13th of June or if the COVID-19 situation escalates from time to time. If you recall, the government rolled out 5 budgets last year, totaling nearly 100 billion Sing dollars to support Singaporeans, tapping into about 43 billion Sing dollars of reserves. Businesses had to also shut for about 2 months during the circuit breaker. But Mr. Wong says that Singaporeans should get used to COVID-19 becoming part of the new normal, and that could include some restrictions every now and then.
We are indeed planning for a plausible scenario down the road where scientists around the world perhaps come to the conclusion that it's not going to be possible to eradicate this virus, it's never going to go away, and we then have to learn to live with it. And that means that, COVID-19 becomes endemic, it's part of us, but we are able to deal with it with sensible precautions, and that includes getting vaccinated. And that means also that beyond just this year's vaccination, we might need to keep on, getting booster jabs from time to time.
Mr. Wong says he will table a supplementary supply bill in Parliament 2 months from now for the change in fund allocation to take effect. Given the current restrictions and impact of livelihoods, he thought it was more crucial for the measures to be announced first to tide businesses through before the changes will be made later.
More certainty and a lifeline. SMEs say that rental support will help them keep their businesses going for much longer. Some say that as much as 90% of revenue was wiped off because of the latest restrictions. Chua Tian Tian with this report.
It's been bad business these days for many shops, but at least now they will be getting some respite from rental relief between half and 1 month. Camel Mile Spring, which sells baby products, says it will save its 2 existing stores and malls from shutting. It already had to close a few.
We had 3 outlets just right before the lockdown, actually. One of the lease ended just right on the day where when the heightened alert was announced. So we were actually going to renew the lease for the outlet, but luckily we didn't. This half a month of rental support definitely goes a long way to help sustaining our current size, manpower, operating costs.
But Ms. Kwa says it might be too late for some. She believes 10 to 15% of shops she knows of might choose to close some outlets by the time the relief is given in August. Meantime, an association that represents over 8,000 SMEs says it's a crucial lifeline for shops and restaurants still clinging on, especially those with physical shop fronts. That's when dine-ins are still banned and with fewer shoppers in malls. Takings for many were slashed by at least half since mid-May.
It's not a question of magnitude of efficiency or